Do I look like the big cheese? The head honcho? All right, we're talking about the big cheese, the #1 guy, or gal. I don't want to get sued. So what is it that defines executive exempt? Again, you know, the first slide had that little cute picture of the cat pretending it's a duck. Folks, this is not rocket science. And you know it when you see it. Someone's either an executive or they're not. It's that simple. And I don't want to confuse this too much. So we're talking about someone who has major decision-making authority on substantive policy issues affecting this company, the direction of the company, meaning they have to be like the head of a department, a division, and it has to be something that's recognized as such, not a made-up department or division. It has to be a real department or division that the company recognizes as such. And these people are basically the ones that run them. They supervise people in them. And that's important because there is an actual formula. They have to supervise at least a total of 80 employee work hours of work per week. That means normally that would be like 2 individuals who work 2 full-time shifts of 40 hours, but it doesn't have to be. They can supervise somebody who's part-time. As long as the total hours for employees that they supervise in a given week hits 80 or more, you've met that part of the supervision leg of the test. But that's vital. The real issue are the duties. They have to be sufficiently high in their both authority, their independent judgment, their weight on policy, and the way the company moves. Those aspects are vital. Lastly, they have to have the authority to hire and fire. And that's given particular weight. That means they have to have the ability, they don't have to run and ask someone, they have to have the ability to do this. So that's kind of, again, a duty. Part of the duties are all interrelated. In some states, the duties aspect of this, the test for duties, you have to be able to demonstrate that at least 50%, I would say more than 50%, I apologize, it should be more, than 50% of their time is spent on these heavyweight decisions, these duties. So if it's less than 50% of the job, chances are what do we always say? They're going to default. If it's a wobbler, you're going to default to non-exempt. But if most of what they do, the majority of what they do, involves these high function, high level duties, then they are likely, if everything else is in place, can qualify as an exempt executive. Here's an example. So take a retail store. The manager of the retail store is likely going to qualify as exempt. And that, by the way, is even true if 35–40% of the time they're actually doing things that non-exempt employees would do. But the assistant manager would not, because the assistant manager likely is so required to report and take the suggestions and decisions of the senior manager. That's why an assistant manager would not qualify, because their decision-making authority has really been muted, whereas the manager has much more freedom. There is the executive exemption. Go to the next slide and we'll touch on another major exemption.